Someone wants to know why we have so many troubles on the planet. And it's because some people are given a lot of leeway to be absolute jerks because of the color of their skin. I'm not talking about Donald Trump, but no, I'm talking about people of color who get up and grandstand and rant, racist rants. Usually it's about white people. This is known as reverse racism because it's not sort of the normal kind of racism, but it's still racism. And for these people, I want them to go back and read Martin Luther King's famous speech, I Have a Dream, because they don't get it yet. Some of the horrible things that are said about white people these days are they're colonialists, white colonialists. This is really reverse racism. The white people born today pretty much were born in situ, whichever country it was they were born into. They weren't coming to colonize new worlds. And yet they're tarred and feathered every day. White colonialists, white colonialists. It used to be called the white man's burden because the working class white people paid a lot of taxes and they watched these taxes go to people, a lot of people indigenous, and then they watched what the money was done with. Usually they weren't too pleased because they weren't getting the same benefits because of the color of their skin or their ancestry. They just got higher tax bills. Some of the money was spent on housing for people like the indigenous, and it was white people who built the housing because the indigenous were drunk or never had the skills to do the building work. And those same contractors reported that in wintertime, instead of going out to the nearby forest and cutting down a tree for firewood, they would basically dismantle the house that they were given, and whatever woodwork was in the house, part of the structure of the house, it was used as firewood. Someone would say, that's bullshit. But I'm telling you, I have lived over 50 years and I have heard this story over and over and over again in multiple places that it happens. Am I being racist? The point of it all is there is discrimination these days, and it is reverse discrimination on people who have white colored skin. I'm not saying there's no racism about people who have got other colored skin. There is. The whole planet has got racism on the brain. And some people love to pull the racism card when they're clearly in the wrong, but they have a skin color that's going to work for them. We all know it. Reverse racism is when someone who is of Aboriginal descent starts saying that the white people are kind of a new color as far as humans have been on the planet. They haven't been around as long as some of the darker skinned people, so they don't know shit. Somehow, by having an Aboriginal background, you're closer to Mother Nature. Uh, History of planet Earth, it gets whitewashed. The white people were the worst people on the planet because they were white colonialists. Well, if you look at the history, no, they weren't any worse than anyone else. I don't know how to keep going on and on about this. It's like I've got my litany of complaints. I wouldn't have the complaints if they don't keep getting shoveled like shit and dropped on my head every day. The white people alive today didn't do all the things that they're blamed for because of the color of their skin and what white people might have done a long time ago. But we're still held responsible because of the color of our skin. And at tax time, um, we're told, so many other people, because of the color of their skin, expect us to pay more in taxes, endless high taxes, to compensate others because of the history that they were told by other people of their skin color. It never ends. It never will end. Because once someone has got this entitlement complex that I'm entitled to more than you because of the color of my skin and the stories of my ancestors, it never ends. Playing the victim for something you didn't even experience. Some indigenous people feel like their religious beliefs entitle them to tell other people that their religious beliefs are shitty and we don't want them. Whenever someone says we, they're lying because they're speaking for other people and you can't. You can only speak for yourself. If you say you're speaking for other people, another group of people, you're lying. You're not. You're not them, but people do this all the time. Who are the biggest problem on the planet these days? White people or people of color? That's not a fair question, but that's what people say. It's not a fair question. Millions of people of one skin tone are grouped together and they're called yellow, brown, black, white, red. And then they're blamed for social problems because of their skin color. I hear it all the time. It doesn't seem to matter what. It's not just white people that get blamed. I hear it about every color skin. They get grouped together and they get blamed for someone who had that skin. One person had that skin color and they did something that someone saw that was offensive to them. But the whole group gets lassoed all together and it's all them. So when I tell the story about, some indigenous people that used the house they were given as firewood, was it all indigenous people? No. But it does happen. I'm a white person. I wasn't gifted with a house at all. We have institutional racism because the government laws recognize people based upon the color of their skin or their ancestry or blood. It's 2020. Why do we still do this? Because certain people are getting a lot from the color of their skin. And they don't want it to change. They'll bitch and moan because, if I bitch and moan about my group that I belong to because of the color of my skin, maybe I can get more stuff. In my town last week, a boy was murdered because he got a land claims settlement from the government. And his portion was not very much. It was $30,000. But some other boys heard that he got this cash windfall of $30,000. They broke into the other one's house and they murdered him for $30,000. The institutional racism, where some people get cut checks because of the color of their skin. It's right in constitutions of countries. It's in all kinds of legislation. South Africa was held up as the worst country on the planet because of its apartheid system of grouping people by the color of their skin. And yet other countries today have the same kind of laws. Little children in kindergarten, some of them are, you pick the color, but they're treated differently by the state because of the color of their skin. Institutional racism. These are accidents of history. The states, I'm talking about the countries of this planet, are run by highly corrupt people. It's becoming more and more obvious to all of us all of the time. These corrupt people are never going to fix anything because they don't want it fixed. They want to use their positions of power to gift people money, taxpayer money, in a myriad of different ways. And then they want a kickback. These people are criminals. The country system on planet Earth is broken and cannot be fixed. So what has to happen? We can only become more and more aware of these troublesome things that we inherited from previous generations. And through our awareness, we can choose not to support these things. And then what happens? Nothing happens. Nothing happens. So the next generations are going to inherit institutional racism, and they're going to have the same racist problems we have now. When are we going to break these cycles? It's a cycle. You grow up in a racist society, you bring your children up in a racist society, and it just gets kicked on generation after generation. Because we've got these institutions that we are taught, well, this is our country and this is the way it runs. We never had a say in it. We just inherited these damn things. And as you get older, you come to the conclusion, I never would have consented to these things. These things are horrors.